Welcome to this course covering the AZ300 Azure Architect Technologies exam. My name is Scott Duffy. I am so excited to have you in this course. We're going to be learning so much together. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner or already have a few years of Azure under your belt, this is going to be fun. I need only a few minutes of your time before we get into this course. I promise, no boring stuff. We're going to get right into Azure in a moment. But I just want to make sure you and I have the same expectations about this course. The AZ300 Architect Certification is one of the harder certifications that Microsoft offers. It's not going to be an easy test. Even if you've been working with Azure for a few years, you still need to study for it. But this course will walk you through everything you need to know to pass. It's a long course, over 10 hours, but I promise it will be interesting for you. This course is not something you can watch in a single day or even in a single weekend and expect to pass the exam 2 or 3 days later. It should realistically take you an entire week at least to watch this course in its entirety and work through some of the assignments. Hands-on practice is essential to passing this test, and there will be many chances within this course for you to pause the video and go practice something in the Azure portal yourself. Depending on your background and experience, I think you should realistically expect about 4 to 6 weeks of work from today to prepare for the AZ300 exam, studying a couple of hours per day. If you're the type of person who finds it fun to learn new things, you'll have lots of fun in this course. Azure is big with hundreds of services available. There's no way you can get expert level knowledge in every aspect of Azure. But my hope is that you'll leave this course with a good broad knowledge of everything and expert knowledge in a few areas that you are personally excited about. We're all different. Some of us are coming from an IT background already, and others come from a business background or some other area. But I truly believe that you can learn anything with enough motivation, time, and practice. Don't worry. This course will cover the topic of Azure completely. Who am I? My name is Scott, and I've spent more than 20 years working for businesses of all sizes, from the smallest companies to the largest, and even governments. I started my career as a developer, but grew into an architect role and team lead roles, eventually leading an entire department. And now it's my joy to be able to share my skills and expertise with students of my courses so that you can take your careers to places that you never thought possible as well. What is Azure? Azure is one of the leading cloud computing platforms out there. For years, Amazon AWS enjoyed a healthy lead in the cloud computing space, but Microsoft has really caught up with AWS in the last couple of years. The capability has caught up, the market share has caught up, and let's be honest, there is certainly more excitement out there about Azure than AWS right now. Azure is landing big contracts, and it's a great time to be an Azure certified architect. Let's talk about what you'll learn in this course. Now, let's be honest, Azure is really big. There are hundreds of services and features of Azure. This exam covers a lot of stuff. But don't worry, we're going to go through these services gradually and in a logical manner. We'll go through them one by one. So don't feel overwhelmed right now. There's a lot to go through, but we'll go through it together. I think you're in the right place. I'm really excited to teach Azure to you. Let's get started. Now, even though this is an architect level test, you are going to need some hands-on experience with Azure in order to pass. I don't believe that you can pass the AZ300 exam without any hands-on experience. And for that, you're going to need an Azure account. Now, Azure does provide a free account with some limited privileges if you need one to pass, or if you already have access to an Azure account through your work or some other means, then you can use that account. If you do already have an account set up and ready to go, you can skip the rest of this video and move on to the next section. The rest of this video, we're going to be talking about the Azure free account, the limitations on that, and how to get one. Now go to your favorite search engine. In this case, it's Google. I enter the word Azure free and hit enter. Now, the first link that comes up is the Microsoft website, azure.microsoft.com/language and country/free. If I click on it, you can see the advertisement for the Microsoft Azure free account. Now, scrolling down a little bit, we can look at what the limitations are, because it's very important to keep in mind while you're studying when those expiry dates are. Now, Microsoft does things a little differently than AWS. you get 30 days of free usage of Azure with a $200 credit. Now, if you use up that $200 within the 30 days, then you're going to have your services shut off. Or when the 30 days runs out and you haven't used your credit, you're going to basically lose that credit. And on top of that, there are 12 months of free services included in the free account. And these services switch over to paid services after 12 months. And there are also always free services. Scrolling down a little bit more, we can look at the different services that are available. So outside of the $200 credit in the first 30 days, you can also get up to 2 virtual machines of a small size for up to 12 months. So you can still continue to practice even after the 30 days is over. You get some disk space, some blob storage, file storage, etc. Scroll back to the top and we're going to say Start Free. Now, in order to access Azure, you do need a Microsoft account. I can use, this is the account I already have for Azure, but I can't get a second free account. Once you've used it, you can't have it again. So I'm going to say use another account. Now, if you have another Microsoft valid email address like Hotmail, Outlook, or something else, you can certainly use that one. Or if you don't have one and you want to use a different email address, it says create one and you can say create an account. You can provide your current email address, whether it's your personal or work address, or you can even create a new address. So let's say we got past this creating an account aspect. Now, to create an Azure account, you do need to provide some information. You need to provide your name and phone number. You need to prove your identification by phone. You are also going to have to provide a credit card as validation and sign the agreement. Now, Microsoft does promise that there is no automatic charges at the end of the 30 days. So your services will shut off if you use up your credit or if your 30 days have expired, and they're not going to start magically billing your credit card. But you do need a credit card in order to create an account. Part of the reason of this is so that they can restrict you to a single account per person. So you can't create an unlimited number of free accounts. Once you've signed up for Azure, you're going to want to log into the portal. Now, the central URL for the Azure portal is portal.azure.com. That is where you're going to go every time you want to log into Azure and do something with it. Once you're logged in, you're going to see a homepage similar to this. You're going to have some very frequent services across the top and some other options, including documentation and learning resources along the bottom. We're going to get into all of these later in this course. But for now, if you're able to get this far, then congratulations, you've successfully created an Azure account. So now that you've been able to log in or create an Azure portal account, let's talk about something that affects pretty much everyone when they're first learning Azure for the first time. We do want to avoid any unexpected or surprise costs. Now, if you have an Azure free account, then you don't really have anything to worry about because Azure's giving you some free credits, and then at the end of the free credits, the resources will be shut down and you have to make a choice to go into a pay-as-you-go plan. Otherwise, you can't continue to use Azure. Now, after the 30 days and you make the choice, you will have a pay-as-you-go plan pretty much. How do you know? Now, we're logged into the portal and we're in the home screen. You can see the home screen is underneath this hamburger menu here. And I'm going to click on subscriptions. And we can see the subscription name. The default is pay-as-you-go, but you can rename that to something that's more useful if you've got multiple accounts. Again, if it says free, then you don't have anything to worry about here. But if it says pay-as-you-go, let's continue on. Now you can see that I've already incurred 28 cents of costs this month, and that's not very much, obviously, but it is more than zero. And we'd have to figure out what's the 28 cents, where's it coming from, do we need to delete it, or what? Now if we go into the subscription by clicking it, we can see that in the month of October and November, I accumulated $68 in costs. And I can almost guarantee you that what happened here was that I created some resources and then I forgot about it and I came back a couple days later and realized they were still running. This is so common. It happens to pretty much almost everyone who's got a pay-as-you-go plan. Now, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to create a budget. So on the left side of the screen, there's under cost management, it says budgets. Now, by default, I don't have any budgets. What we're going to want to do is create our first budget. So we're going to say add. Now we can say what the scope is of this budget. Now we do want this first budget to affect our entire subscription. And so the default being the subscription is fine. But if we want to limit the budget scope to only a particular resource group or a particular resource even, we can then navigate down into this resource group, and I can say this resource group here, I want to put the budget on there. But again, I'm pretty happy with the subscription level budget right now. We have to give it a name, so call this new budget. And the name cannot contain spaces. Now, at what period do we want the budget to affect? Maybe just the billing month or the calendar month or the quarter, etc. So billing month is just fine. Budgets expire, and so this budget's going to run for another 2 years. Let's leave it like that. Now, it does look back upon my history and make a suggestion in terms of what would be a good budget. In this case, it's suggesting $8. Now, that's probably a little bit low, but let's say I really do want to be notified when the spending hits 20. That would be like a significant number for me. So I'm going to put in a number in there. Now, you might want this to say 1, right? The budget could very well be anytime there's a cost you want to be notified. In this case, I'll let it go up to about $20. Now, it's important to keep in mind what's going to happen when this budget is hit. Well, it's not going to be necessarily what you expect. The budget doesn't stop running once it reaches the budget limit. It actually just alerts you. So we can say, give it a condition that says when 100% of the budget has been spent, which in my case is $20, I can just have it alert me by email. So I can enter my email address here, and it will actually just send me an email when this budget is hit, and I can say create. And so now at least I get notifications when the budget hits $20 every month. This is very important to set up because I believe it's happened to almost everybody who's worked with Azure, where you accidentally start up a resource and you forget about it, and suddenly 2 days later $100 has been spent. So before we get into the content, I just want to take a minute here to talk about the Udemy video player. In the bottom left of the screen is the speed control. And if you think I'm talking too fast or talking too slow, you can change the speed of that down in the left. On the right is the captions. And if you want to see the text of what I'm saying at the bottom of the video, you can choose either the English language captions or in another language. If you want to see a transcript, there's also a transcript button. And so you can see on the side of the screen the script of this video. Finally, reviews are the lifeblood of this course. So if you do choose to leave a review, I would be so grateful. This will help other students to find this course in search. If you're not ready to leave a review, you can click the Ask Me Later button or Ask Me at the end of the course. Both options are available to you. But if you are willing to leave a review, thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate it. I want to say thanks for being a student. If you do have a suggestion for something I can add to the course to make the experience better, drop me an email. The email is on screen. So thanks again, and let's get into the content. So Microsoft has announced some changes to this exam, the AZ300 Technologies exam, as of December 4, 2019. In this video, we're going to talk about those changes. Now, if you go to the official landing page, scroll down a little bit, they've changed the page up. They'd still have a list of the technologies covered and the percentages, but you have to go to an external PDF in order to see those changes. Now I'll click on that, zoom in a little bit. Now the first half of the PDF is the requirements of the exam, so we can just skip over that because there's nothing that's changed. The changes aren't listed in the first half. Once you get to the halfway mark, this sort of near the end of the page here is when we see the actual changes. Now, almost every section of this exam has had a topic removed or a topic added. There's seen a lot of like strike-throughs and things have just been moved around. So this provision VM section doesn't live here, but then now it lives near the bottom of the document there. So I've created a presentation here, talk about the changes to the AZ300 exam. All right, so these are the requirements of the exam. That hasn't changed, and the percentages haven't changed. Now, these following topics have been added to the deploy and configure infrastructure part of the exam, which is roughly 1/4 of the exam. So Azure Monitor workbooks, using AD authentication for accessing storage accounts, storage account failover, dedicated hosts, Azure VM backup, and application security groups. I'm going to be adding videos to this course on these topics. On the workloads and security section, we only have the front door service and the virtual WAN service that's been added to that section. There's nothing new in the deployment of apps, and it's only 5 to 10% of the exam. And a couple of new things in terms of authentication, managed identities. They have data encryption in transit, which is fairly simple with HTTPS and OAuth 2 authentication styles. And they've added database stuff. So the last version of this exam did not have any direct relationship to databases, but now we've got the NoSQL and relational databases being added in. Now, in terms of that's been removed, the Azure Container Service is deprecated as of January 2020. You can no longer create ACS, so that's not on the exam anymore. Reserved instances have been removed. Don't know why, but that's no longer in the topic list. There's been some stuff around migration that's been removed, and if you can believe it, they no longer cover the load balancing service, but they still cover application gateway. So those are the changes to the exam. You can see there's been a lot of topics added to various sections, and so you can expect that I'm going to go and record videos for this, add them to the course. And when it comes to stuff being removed, I'll obviously keep an eye out for videos that are no longer relevant on that.